My name is Emma, I am 32 years old, and I spent 20 years believing I was my parents' biggest mistake, not because they said it once in anger, not because it slipped out in a difficult moment, because my father said it calmly, clearly at the kitchen table when I was 12 years old. I had spilled a glass of juice on his newspaper. He looked at the spreading stain, then he looked at me, and he said, "You know, Emma, you have been our biggest mistake." My mother did not correct him. She got up and found the paper towels, and I sat there at 12 years old and decided that must be true. I need to explain something about my family before I continue. My parents, Harold and Evelyn, were not cruel people in the way movies portray cruel people. They did not shout. They did not use physical punishment. They maintained a household that looked perfectly normal from the outside. Neighbors thought they were a lovely family. Teachers sent home positive reports. Christmas cards showed us smiling in matching outfits. But inside the house there was a particular coldness that I could never fully name until I was much older. It was the coldness of being present without being wanted, of being fed and clothed and educated but never quite celebrated. My younger brother, Nathan, was different. Nathan was wanted in a way I was not. I knew this not because anyone told me directly. I knew it the way children always know the things adults think they are hiding. In the way my father's voice changed when he spoke to Nathan versus when he spoke to me. In the way my mother saved Nathan's school drawings but not mine. In the way the house felt warmer on the evenings he came home from school than on the evenings I did. I was not jealous of Nathan. He was kind to me always. Whatever happened between my parents and me, Nathan was never part of it. He was simply the proof that my parents were capable of warmth. They simply chose not to direct it toward me. When I was 18, I left for college. I studied hard because studying was the one place where my parents' opinion of me could not reach. In a classroom, nobody knew I was a mistake. In a classroom, I was simply a student with good ideas and a willingness to work. I graduated with honors. I built a career I was proud of. I married a man named Thomas who loved me in a way that sometimes made me uncomfortable because I had not known what it felt like to be consistently chosen. I worked through that discomfort in therapy for 3 years. I came to understand that what I had absorbed at 12 years old was not the truth about me. It was the truth about my parents. About whatever they were carrying that they chose to put down on a child who spilled juice on a newspaper. I understood it. But understanding something and no longer feeling it are two very different things. The dinner happened last November. My parents had invited the whole family for Thanksgiving. Thomas and I drove 4 hours. Nathan and his wife, Claire, were already there when we arrived. Nathan hugged me at the door. Claire made me tea immediately. The evening started well. The food was good. My mother had cooked everything from scratch the way she always did on holidays. My father was in a good mood. For the first 2 hours I almost forgot the particular way certain rooms make you feel like a child again. Almost forgot the way my father's eyes moved past me slightly faster than they moved past Nathan. Almost forgot the kitchen table and the newspaper and the word that had followed me for 20 years. Then Nathan's daughter, my niece Lily, who is 7, knocked over her glass of apple juice. The juice spread across the tablecloth. Lily immediately said sorry. Thomas immediately grabbed napkins. Nathan helped Lily off her chair so her dress wouldn't get wet. My father looked at the spreading stain, and then he looked at me and he said, "Reminds me of something." He almost smiled when he said it, like it was a shared memory, like he expected me to find it funny too. The table continued around us. Thomas was still reaching for napkins. Nathan was helping Lily. Claire was talking to my mother. Nobody heard it but me. I set down my fork. I looked at my father, and something I had been holding very carefully for 20 years simply stopped being held. I said, "Yes, it does remind me of something." My father tilted his head slightly. "Do you remember what you said to me at that table when I was 12? He frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I spilled juice on your newspaper. You told me I was your biggest mistake." Table went very quiet. Nathan looked up. Claire stopped talking. My mother set down her serving spoon. My father opened his mouth. "Emma, I never." "You did." I said it without anger, without tears, just clearly. You said it calmly. Got up for paper towels. Neither of you said anything else. I spent the next 20 years believing it was true. Table was completely silent. My father looked at Nathan. Nathan looked at me. My mother's hand was at her mouth. My father said slowly, "Emma, I don't remember saying that." I nodded. "I know, that's part of it. Cost you nothing to say." Cost me 20 years. What happened next surprised me. My father didn't argue further. He sat back in his chair. He was quiet for a long time. Then Nathan said something quietly. He said, "Dad." One word, but the way he said it, like a question and an answer at the same time. My father looked at his son, then he looked at me. And I watched something move across his face that I did not have a name for immediately. It took me a moment to recognize it. Because I had not seen it directed at me before. It was shame, real shame, not defensiveness, not explanation, just the quiet, exposed look of a person who has finally understood the weight of something they said without thinking. He said, "Emma, I waited. I don't remember saying it. If I did," he stopped, started again. "There is no world in which that sentence should have ever come out of my mouth. At you. At anyone. Especially not at you." His voice was different than I had ever heard it. "You were never a mistake." For one day, I looked at him. My mother was crying quietly. Nathan was very still. Thomas had found my hand under the table. I said, "I needed to hear that. I needed to say that first. I needed to hear it." My father nodded. "I know. I'm sorry it took this long." We stayed for another 2 hours after that. The dinner continued, not perfectly, a little carefully, the way things continue after something true has been said out loud for the first time. On the drive home, Thomas asked if I was okay. I thought about it for a long time before answering. Then I said, "I think I am. The first time in a long time. I actually think I am." He squeezed my hand on the gear shift. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. My father called me the following Sunday. He asked if we could talk. We talked for almost 2 hours. He told me things about his own childhood that he had never told me before, things that didn't excuse what he had said, but things that helped me understand where a person learns to say something like that to a 12-year-old. He told me he was proud of me. He told me he had always been proud of me. He told me he had never known how to show it properly. I told him it wasn't too late to learn. He said he would try. I told him trying was enough to start with. Last month my parents came to visit us. My mother brought flowers from her garden. My father helped Thomas fix a shelf that had been crooked for months. At dinner my father asked me about my work. He asked follow-up questions. He listened to the answers. When we said goodbye at the door, he hugged me, not the brief, polite hug of someone completing a necessary gesture, a real one, the kind that lasts long enough to mean something. I stood in the doorway after their car pulled away. Thomas came and stood beside me. He said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think we're going to be okay." I still hear the word sometimes, in quiet moments, in moments of self-doubt. 20 years is a long time for something to live inside you. It doesn't disappear because someone finally says sorry, but it becomes smaller. It becomes something you can see clearly instead of something you live inside of. And that is enough. That is more than enough. Subscribe to Calm Revenge Stories for a brand new story every single day. Because sometimes the truth doesn't come out in a courtroom or a lawyer's office. Sometimes it comes out at a dinner table, over spilled juice, 20 years later, and it turns out that was exactly the right time.